Believe it or not, there's a lot of fools out there that don't think that Alex Pereira is that good of a fighter, that he's very mechanical, and that he basically thinks that he's still kickboxing, and that the only reason he's had the success that he's had is because of that intimidation factor, and that if he spoke fluent English, he wouldn't even be scary anymore, and that he's got that boogeyman aura because of that mystique, the stoicness, the mysteriousness, because that's what the boogeyman is. It's that fear of the unknown. And the boogeyman can't let you get close, because the funny thing is, maybe the boogeyman's not even scary, but the reason he's scary is because you don't really know. I'm those people, all right? That's what I've been thinking about Alex Pereira this whole time. He kind of reminds me of that dude from the Night at the Museum, that rockhead looking dude, the, hey, dom, I want gum. I forgot how he said it, but that dude where it's just like, he's basically like a human monster. It just, like, the structure of his face and the way he walks, and just like the fact that he don't speak English is like he's from another, like he's like an alien or something like that. And if we're gonna be honest, I don't know if he would have been able to climb the ranks. Like, look, I know he came onto the scene because of what he had done to Adesanya in the past 2 times, and then yeah, he knocked him out, and then it made it look like, oh, he definitely deserved to be here, but that's because he had his number. I don't think he would have been able to climb up the ranks and ever fight Adesanya if he started from the bottom. And then the fact that Adesanya was able to do to him what he did in the second UFC fight after Pereira already had his number, and then some fools are like, well, it's not the same because Adesanya called T-Mobile and he had his number changed. It doesn't matter though. Like, I know he's still new in MMA, but after being a fighter for that long and having that long of a career, he should have known in that second fight to be smarter, to have his hands up, to protect himself. And even if you're gonna have your hands down, move your head better, move your feet better. It was very sloppy and lazy and careless. And then they let him go straight to the top in the next division, and he barely went to a split decision. And then you got Jiri over here, and it's like, that's a wrap. This fool's straight out of a video game. Like, when you're just watching him fight, Pereira looks like one of those dudes in the video game where you're trying out your new moves before you actually go into the fight. And Jiri fights like one of those dudes that I'm not even gonna feel bad about it. I'm gonna get the cheat code. And right when I was gonna make the video, I could tell I had to go to the bathroom first. And I knew that it was gonna be a while because I had KFC yesterday. So I decided to pull a fight pass. And out of curiosity, I was like, let me do my due diligence. So I decided to watch the Jiri versus Glover fight. And what I discovered was very interesting. So you could watch all the Jiri fights. And yes, that fool does look like he came straight out of a video game. But Glover was the first person that made that fool look human. And it reminded me of when I was a little kid. And you know how sometimes you're playing a video game and you kept getting killed over and over and over by this one dude. And then sometimes just out of curiosity, you don't move the control over. You know how it's like CPU and then you move your control over? Sometimes, you just leave it in the middle and you let those fools fight each other and you just want to study. You just want to watch and be like, hey, could the CPU even beat the CPU? And then all of a sudden it was like, it's a real fight. And you're like rooting for the guy that's supposed to be you. And it's kind of pathetic because it's not you, but you're still like, it's like your big brother or something, And you're like, yeah, get him. That's how it felt when Glover was fighting with him. But making Jiri look human was not the most significant thing that Glover did in that fight. The most significant thing that for some reason nobody wants to talk about and everybody's gonna act like it didn't happen is that he made Jiri tap out in the first round. It's right there, clear as day, on camera. Tappy tap, tappity tap. Not only did Glover make him look human, not only did Glover show that it's pretty easy to take him down over and over again, not only did Glover show that fool leaves a ton of openings because of his crazy style, he tapped him out. As far as I'm confirmed, Glover won that fight. And he is still the champion today. And it shouldn't be any different for you because I just showed you the footage. And forget what happened with Jamal Hill, because that fight would have never even happened if it wasn't for the fact that they robbed Glover. But for the sake of this video being about a prediction between Pereira and Jiri, let's move on from the fact for the moment that Glover won and is still the champion right now. I was talking about Strickland versus Adesanya, and I was talking about how he had improved and he was doing this and that better, and he had grown so much as a fighter because of his time training with Pereira and Glover. And people were like, fool, why do you keep talking about that? Why do you keep making a big deal about that? They trained together for like 20 minutes. And I'm over here like, fool, I know. Imagine if they trained together for like a week or couple months. It's like they're only proving my point that it doesn't even take that much. They just had to be like in each other's atmosphere. Maybe it was only a little bit of time concentrated that they spent together, but look at what happened. Look at what came from that. And that was Strickland just coming over, training with those fools for like a lost weekend real quick. Imagine with Glover and Pereira on the daily. Those fools are like BFFs. He just bought that fool a motorcycle. They're over there broke backing in the river doing BJJ and whatnot. You just can't underestimate the training. It's everything. Everything that you're soaking in. All the words of wisdom, the encouragement, the stuff you're picking up, the stuff that's rubbing off on you. It's like Rose Namajunas right now and Pat Barry. She's just not growing and maturing as a fighter. And that's because Pat Barry doesn't want her to mature. And it's not like Pereira's just training with some great champion, with a veteran of the sport, with the future Hall of Famer, with like one of the best grapplers ever in the UFC, with some dude that did it even as an old dude and did it as one of the very best, with some dude with the chin, with some dude that has those hands too, which is very rare when you're so good at BJJ. No. On top of that, he's doing it. He's training. He's spending every day in and out with the dude that set the blueprint for beating Jiri. So some of you might not have watched the fight. Some of you don't remember. Let me refresh your memory. Glover and Jiri fought for the championship. Glover was the championship. Jiri was challenging him. Going into the 5th round, it was like unanimous. It was 2-2. It was tied. And Glover was definitely winning the 5th round. He was like 30 seconds away from getting it, but he put himself in a bad position. And he tapped with like 30 seconds left because he had Jiri rocked. He had him rocked, and all he had to do was keep it on the feet and finish him. But it was like his muscle memory. He pulled guard, and then he got in a bad position. 30 seconds left. He would have won the decision if he wouldn't have knocked him out or something before that. He had rounds, I don't know, and 5. He would have won 3 rounds to 2. Aside from that, though, like I already said, he already had won in the 1st round as well. But I say that to let you know that he had the blueprint to beat him, because some fools are probably gonna be like, how did he have the blueprint if he lost the fight? You gotta go watch the fight, because he beat that fool up. The difference with Jiri and Pereira is that Pereira will set the distance and the pace with all those leg kicks that he's gonna be throwing. If Glover threw any leg kicks, which I don't even remember if he threw any at all, it was very, very, very rare. And it was the absence of something like leg kicks in Glover's game that caused him to take as much damage as he did, which led to him being more tired in the later rounds. So with Pereira throwing an onslaught of leg kicks, which we know he's gonna do, he's automatically not gonna take nearly as much damage as Glover did. And that's gonna happen to leave him at his perfect range for all the kickboxing he's gonna do. And this is where Pereira's size will definitely come into play, because he's bigger than Glover, and it'll be easier for him to keep Jiri back. But that size is also gonna come into play with the grappling. Don't think that Pereira's gonna go into this fight like the same Pereira that we've always seen. I know I'm saying that he's gonna keep him back with the leg kicks and he's gonna do that kickboxing game and stuff. Yeah, the fight's gonna start on the feet, but you know he's not going into this fight when his homie laid the blueprint and not do any grappling. Glover was taking that fool down repeatedly, and he was getting him in bad positions, and he was socking him up. And I believe that he's gonna train Pereira to do the exact same thing, but Pereira's even bigger and he's even stronger. So when he gets Jiri into these positions that, first of all, Jiri's not gonna be expecting from Pereira, it's gonna be bad news for him, especially because Jiri's coming off what they said was like the worst shoulder injury that they've ever seen in like all of the UFC. So he's gonna be going, you know, like sometimes when I go to sleep, I have this habit where I like to lay with my arm under my pillow. I don't know if any of you do that. It's just like an extra little, like I can't sleep if I don't do that. It just gives me a little more like a better sleeping angle. And then like when I wake up, I was trying to do some upward rows, and I felt like I couldn't, like this side was just like giving out on me. Like that's a sacrifice that see, I can feel it right there too right now. Like I slept good last night. Like I had that little elevation because of my elbows. I could probably just get a second pillow and then everything will go away. But I just feel like I'm kind of used to being in that position now. I feel like I can't even sleep if I'm not like that. But what I'm saying is, you're going to have this big old dude on top of you, trained, given the blueprint by Glover, and your shoulder's going to be on. I know he has some time off. I know he had quite a bit of time off, but you're coming right back into a fight with this dude's homie who beat you already because he was grappling you up, and you're coming in with the compromised shoulder. I know he had that time off, but it's not gonna be as good as new. And I'm not even saying Pereira's gonna go in there with anything like a flying triangle or anything. I'm not saying that he's gonna get him in the rear naked choke. I'm just saying Glover made it obvious that that fool's easy to take down and that he leaves a bunch of openings. And Pereira probably doesn't even have to be the best at really setting anything up intelligently. He just has to go for like a power double, really commit to it with that size and strength. And it's not that I think he's gonna submit him or choke him out. I think he could just finish right there. He could TKO him. Imagine all the shots that Glover was giving that fool. And Glover's a hard hitter. I'm not even trying to imply that he's not. But imagine with the power from Pereira in that same position, as many times as Glover was there, and whether it was right there on the ground or even on the feet, Glover landed so many times cleanly on Jiri, because again, that fool leaves a lot of openings and he gets hit quite a bit. Imagine if Pereira was landing as many times as cleanly. It would have been over way sooner. Not sooner than it actually was, because Jiri tapped out in the first round. I'm not going to let that go. But aside from that, I'm saying, and talking about punching power and strikes landing and stuff, especially in the fifth round, when Glover was teeing off on Jiri and he was rocked and he should have kept teeing off instead of pulling guard. Of course, Pereira wouldn't pull guard in that position. Pereira, maybe even to a fault, just like he was trying to do with Adesanya in that second UFC fight, he would have just kept him right there on the cage, teeing off on him. And in that case, he would have went down. I'm saying if Pereira finds himself in the same position as Glover did, his instinct is going to tell him to kickbox, and that's going to be a wrap. There's basically one thing that Pereira needs to do in order to win this fight. If he does this one thing, he wins this fight. Protect your head. If you just keep your hand, you don't even have to keep them up the whole time. You don't have to stay like this, but just like be aware, and just every once in a while, just because he's gonna be throwing flying knees, he's gonna be doing all that funky stuff, he's gonna head fake and throw an uppercut, he's gonna do all that stuff. Protect your head. Protect your head. Glover went in there, and I know I keep saying all this stuff, I'm being redundant, I know, but he showed that he could get taken down. He showed that he leaves a lot of openings. He showed that he exposes himself a lot because of his style. And Glover is like 7 years older than Pereira. Glover's smaller than Pereira. Pereira has bigger punching power. It's the worst matchup right now for Jiri because of the combo of these two. If it was just Pereira on his own, nah, it's gonna be Jiri all day. But it's because of Glover. It's because of Glover. It's because of that blueprint. That is the secret ingredient right here. Pereira, I'm just telling you, protect your head.